Hello everybody, in a previous video I spoke about eating too much. We need to eat less, but I always mention too much and too often. And I want to kind of pound this into people's mind that you're eating too often. There's something that's popular today called intermittent fasting, which is just a renaming of the word, not overeating. Some people call it restricted eating, some people call it intermittent fasting, some people say it's just fasting. It's not really fasting because fasting is when you're eating nothing, but technically it might be fasted because you're not eating anything when you go to sleep at night, and when you wake up in the morning, you eat your first meal is breakfast, which if you break that down, it's break fast. So you're breaking your nightly fast, and that's where you get the word breakfast from. But if you extend that nightly fast to, let's say, typical lunchtime, but you're eating your first meal at lunchtime, so now it's really the meal that's breaking your fast. So it's still breakfast, even though it's lunchtime. It's a break fast meal. So if you're eating once a day, even if it's at nighttime, you're eating you break fast at nighttime, right? Breakfast or dinner, right? But we've gotten to this idea of labeling meals and labeling the types of foods we eat in those meals. For breakfast, people usually cook something like a sausage or an egg or bacon or something. For lunch, people are eating fast food on the go, and for dinner, people usually eat the biggest meals. I wrote a book called The Daylight Diet, and I investigated uh, how meals started to begin with. And typically, people were not eating 3 meals a day in history. They were not doing that. Typically, people ate 2 meals a day, and they didn't eat late at night. Late at night is something that, if you're going to do this restricted eating or this intermittent fasting, not eating a nighttime meal is the best thing you can do for your health and the best way you can do it. Because when the sun is up, that's when digestion in your body works the best. And when the sky, when the moon is out and it's dark outside, that's when it's not a time of digestion. It's a time of cleansing. And you can tell this by the moon and the tides, the high tides and the low tides, and they're moving. Basically, the moon moves water. All the water on the earth moves with the moon. And, this isn't getting a new agey on people. This is just the way it works. The body is in tune with nature, or it's supposed to be. And we've denatured it by getting into electric houses, electricity, and artificial lighting and all this thing. But there's an optic nerve in the eye that responds to the sun. And when it's out at its highest, not only does it, the skin and everything, uh, utilize that in a healthy way. People think it's unhealthy. Well, it's unhealthy to overbake something because you'll burn it. Well, the same thing will happen to you, but if you put it in the right amount of time, then it's good. So sun is important. Sun is tremendously important for health. And it's also important for our digestion. So when we're eating foods, when the sun is out at its highest peak, that's when digestion is at its highest. And do not use sunglasses to block those rays coming into or your vision to see that it's sunny or to know it's sunny, because that will slow down your digestion. So when digestion is your best is when the sun's out. So your ideal times to eat would be the times between midday, let's say between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And the time is not the same everywhere. The only place it's the same everywhere is on the equator, because there's 12 hours of the day and truly 12 hours of the night with 60 minutes in each hour. But when you're living off the equator, in the wintertime, the daylight hours are shorter. In the summertime, the daylight hours are longer because you're closer and farther from the sun. And that's why that's the case. So we'll say and give that window between 10 a.m. and 12 and 2 p.m. as the times that the sun is at its highest. We can't say the exact time because the time changes every season, or the exact time will change. But we know it's between 10 and 2, usually wherever you are located. And of course, there are exceptions like Alaska and Antarctica and all these exceptions where it's mostly day in the summer and mostly night in the winter. But for the most part, between 10 and 2 is when the sun's at its highest. Those would be the ideal times for digestion if you're going to eat. Now, that brings up the question of if people are used to eating not one meal, not 2 meals, 3 meals, 4 meals. Every time you grab something and put it in your body doesn't know the difference between a meal or a snack. There's no little man with a computer in your stomach saying, that's a meal, that's a snack. Your body has to work every time food enters into it. Your body has to get digestion ready and has to do what it does and eliminate. It works. So when you continuously eat meal after meal after meal, your body is working. It has no chance to slow down and catch up and do the job it was meant to do. And many people do this from the time they wake up all day long till the time they go to sleep. And some people have something called sleep eating disorder where they do it even when they're sleeping. It's such an unhealthy practice. And years ago, and even today, some people say, oh, it's best to eat many small meals throughout the day. That's terrible advice because you're not giving your body a chance to do what it's supposed to do when you're doing that, because it's continuously keeping it in this digestive mode and this elimination mode, and that's not a healthy place to be. Again, in history, we have, and you can look back at history, and I talk about this in my book, The Daylight Diet, the break fast. Then you had, usually people ate their break fast, and it wasn't as soon as they got up. They were up for a while, and then it was. And then they had this early evening meal before the sun came down when it was still light outside, and they called it supper, and it was light. It was something like a soup or something. That's where they got supper from soup. It was a light meal. But people started to fall into this trap of advertising, we need to eat more, and gluttony. And now you get this meal in the middle, which it started out, it was like a lump of bread, and they called it luncheon, and then they called it lunch. And now you got breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And sometimes breakfast, lunch, dinner, supper, and supper. Sometimes breakfast, lunch, dinner, supper, your late night snack, and your Oprah Winfrey snack, and your, sports team lost snack, and all these excuses to eat. It's not healthy to continuously eat all throughout the day. People are eating too often. So intermittent fasting is the phrase that's used now. Some people are saying restricted eating, and that's just, or fasting, and just eating a certain amount of times a day. So most people will do best if they only ate when it's daylight outside, and if they kept their meals to 2, or at most, only putting food in your body 3 times a day, at most. Not 4, not 5, and that includes snacking. 2 would be ideal, but 3 most. Now, that eating window, here's the thing with the intermittent fasting, is what is the time you're going to do that? Because you want to have a good amount of space between your meals so your last meal could digest, but you don't want to extend that window so far where you end up eating and not giving yourself the full recovery time you should get at nighttime. And the ideal way to do that is have an eating window. And start off with a 10-hour eating window. So give yourself 10 hours throughout the day. That means you have 14 hours of not eating every night. So you're going to have a 10-hour window when you're eating. So you eat your first meal, and then on your 5th hour, you can eat your second meal, and your 10th hour, you can eat your third meal. So you got 3 meals in 10 hours. Now, try to shorten that window. Try to go 8 hours. If you could fit those 3 meals in 8 hours, that would be better. Ideally, even better, fit 2 meals in 8 hours. So maybe every 4 hours, you're eating twice, 4 hours. That would be ideally better. But remember what I said, that window, 10 to 2. So 10 to 2 is 4 hours. I mean, ideally, if you can get to eat 1 meal a day within those 4 hours, that might be ideal. So ultimately, if you had a 6-hour window, you could have 18 hours of not eating and 6 hours of eating. So you have a 6-hour window of eating, and you could do it with 2 meals. And then you have this bigger window of resting and recovering at nighttime. So start off with 10 hours. Get used to not eating outside that 10-hour window. Try to make it 3 meals or 2 meals at most, and then cut that window down to 8. For some people, 8 might be okay. It's going to be a lot better than what people are doing. And if you can cut that window down to 6, even better. So, but don't go beyond those borders of 10 hours and 3 meals at most. Most people are eating a lot more meals outside that 10-hour window. That's what we want to avoid. And if you can get comfortable doing that, try to get to 8 hours by eating 2 meals. And once you master that, try to get to 6 hours by eating 2 meals or even 1 meal. That'd be ideally the best for most people. And when you're doing that window, remember, try to frame it around those high times of sunrise between 10 and 2. Try to get it around that. But you're always better off eating earlier than later. So you're giving your body enough time before you go to sleep to empty out the food. So some people might eat 2 hours before going to sleep. Try to extend that 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. If you could eat within 6 hours, not eat after 6 hours of going to sleep, all the better. So now if you're going to sleep at 10 o'clock at night and you stopped eating at 4 or 5 o'clock, that'd be ideal. And this isn't a perfection thing where you need to do this every day. If you're going out to eat with your family and you want to be social and something happens once in a while, you can make those proper adjustments. You want to make this enjoyable for you. You don't want to make it so rigid that you're not enjoying it. But at the same time, to keep in mind and understand and see how you feel for your schedule, not eating later at night, eating earlier in the day, having that window anywhere between 6 hours, 8 hours, or 10 hours, and not going beyond that. Create a schedule that works for you and your schedule, and that's the way to do it. To eat less often. You'll be better off for it. Thank you for watching, everybody. Have a great day and a great raw life.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show. Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show.